The corn rootworm. You never know when it may crawl into your fields, but the first step in defeating an enemy is understanding the enemy. Let's dig into the roots of rootworms and why they're so scary with an expert from Bayer.
Corn rootworm has been a battle for farmers for at least the last decade, probably honestly a little bit longer, but really in the last decade, it's become a focal point of an issue that farmers have really been trying to manage. We kind of in agriculture have called this the billion-dollar bug. Based on what stage of life that rootworm is in, it can cause damage to crops. The longer those beetles are allowed to kind of repeat that life cycle in the same field, the more of them there are. And then as a result, the higher the pest pressure is and the more damaging it can be to that field. You have one major crop cycle. So instead of staying in a corn on corn rotation, they could potentially rotate in a secondary crop.
Now that we've unmasked the rootworm's sinister purpose, we can burrow further into its nefarious motivations. It may be terrifying to look the rootworm in the eye, that is, if it had eyes, but doing so gives you insight into how to defeat it.
If we're thinking of kind of that like life cycle of the corn rootworm, it really starts as an egg, moves into a larvae stage, and then ultimately evolves into a beetle. And based on what stage of life that rootworm is in, it can cause damage to crops. They're attracted to the CO2 that are released from the roots as the plants are growing. So the roots are really just that main dietary source for them. It really can reduce yield potential. Corn rootworm in agriculture today has been kind of deemed this billion-dollar bug. Beetles are starting to come out of the ground. And so at that time, it's really critical for farmers to not only assess what's happening in their fields, and they do this by conducting root digs or working with a trusted crop advisor. Farmers will go out and they will randomly select plants within a field. From there, they will then go ahead and actually conduct that root dig. And that's where they try to take out as much of that root ball as possible. You can grade corn rootworm feeding and grade those, how far back they're cut to determine, this is low, moderate, severe pressure, and these are the actions we should take as a result of that.
To truly take action, it's essential to know your enemy, no matter how blood-curdling that knowledge may be. Look on to discover the best techniques for uncovering the rootworm in your field.
If a farmer knows that they live in an area where corn rootworm pressure is evident, something they may do to really keep an eye and really monitor this pest pressure is set out sticky traps. And what that does for the farmer is it allows them to assess how many adult beetles do I have flying around in my field. It's typically like a little yellow piece of paper. It folds up. It is quite, as the name says, sticky. And it will ultimately catch bugs, that are just kind of flying around the field. And what that does for the farmer is it allows them to assess how many adult beetles do I have flying around in my field.
Defeating the dreaded rootworm takes planning, technique, and a friend you can trust. Here's how Bayer can help you when your fields turn into a battlefield.
Bayer offers a variety of things for farmers when it comes to really combating this threat. So first and foremost, your trusted advisors, your field sales representatives, your technical agronomists. These folks are a part of the farmer throughout the season. So not only when it comes to selecting that seed at the beginning of the year, but making that cropping plan for the year, scouting throughout the season to really understand that pest pressure, helping conduct root digs, and then helping assess results at harvest so they can understand what techniques worked or didn't work. Bayer also has a variety of traits within their portfolio that really help with this pest. Some of the new exciting technologies that we have in market today are SmartStax Pro with RNAi technology. What you get with these products are above and below ground protection against corn rootworm. Corn rootworm isn't the same across all fields in the corn belt. There are pockets where it's very extreme. There are pockets where they don't experience it at all. And then there's that whole rainbow and spectrum in between. Crop rotation, if it is possible, is your first line of defense. And that's where those traits come into play. So between the crop rotation and the trait decision, that's where a lot of, the power the farmer has. And that's really comes into play during that planning process for them before the seed actually goes into the ground.
As Rootworm Week comes to a close, we're glad we can end on a note of hope. Because no matter what's creeping through your field, there's a friend out there ready to help you stop it.